As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Salutation. New Haven. Got a little kick. Harry. All right. Salutations, New Haven. Salutations, Connecticut. Salutations to the world. Today I got a great show for you. I was telling my guest that I was reading an article in the Connecticut Junkie about the massive amount of teachers leaving the Hartford public schools right now. And I've got three guests that are involved in pulling together new pathways to teaching, new exciting ways to bring teachers in the classroom, and you're going to love them. They do happen to be from Central Connecticut State University. Shout out to the Blue Devils. Just got to say that. But before we start, I would be remiss if I didn't take off my hat and I didn't say that I want to thank Tom Ficklin, who recently passed away. What a gentleman, what a character who was so generous, a great humanitarian. Who else gives away airtime to their friends to talk about the things that they're passionate about? Thank you, Tom. I call upon all the angels to help heal your family and friends. And you, dear brother, you are missed. All right, now I'll start the show, and this one's for you, Tom Ficklin. All right, let's start the show and get going. And Jamal, I think I'm going to start with you, because when you sent me like all this stuff, I started looking you up on LinkedIn. You have been like everywhere, man. You're like that Johnny Cash song, and you've done everything. And you bring a rich history of genuine teaching experience, a rich history of leadership. So I saw the assistant principal. I saw the interim principal at Conard. By the way, my daughter graduated from Conard, just to throw in a little thing over there. Right. But Jamal, could you introduce yourself? And we'll get to all the other stuff. But if you introduce yourself and tell us about your passion.
Sure. My name is Jamal Hines. I'm the special assistant to the provost here at Central Connecticut State University. And what my passion is now and has always been is creating opportunities for all students. Of course, I'm super passionate about our brown and black students and our students who are our first gen students, and really just trying to forge relationships and partnerships with families that are going to just far reach anything that we ever would think that we could do. And so I'm just so excited to be here and talk about it, because that truly is the passion and why I'm in education.
Excellent. Dr. Love, and doesn't everybody want to be called Dr. Love? I mean, come on, Dr. Love, tell him.
I mean, I try not to brag too much, but yeah. So I'm happy to be here. This is great. Thank you, Jesse, for this. So I'm Kurt Love. I've lived in Connecticut all my life, grew up in Shelton. I went to UConn and taught middle school science for a bunch of years. I taught in Hartford, West Hartford, and in Cheshire. And loved middle school teaching, miss it every day. And now I've been at Central since 2008, and teaching teachers how to teach is always the tagline. And loving it, just absolutely loving it. And I'm always so fortunate because I get to do courses that are so much more about thinking and self-development, which is such a core piece of, how we become a teacher, right? It's not just knowing your content area, it's also who are you as a person and what's the best version of yourself. And I love that. And obviously that's something I'm passionate about, but I'm passionate about sort of looking forward to see how do we develop more thriving within our communities, right? That's been something I've been working on for years and years and years, just to kind of bring the language to that and bring understanding in a way that is accessible to ourselves and everyone else. And I'm so thankful for being here. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. And he's an eco warrior.
Oh, yeah, well.
He's done it all. But let's go to Seiko. Can you tell us, how does a Japanese girl wind up at Central Connecticut State University? How's that happen?
Do you have a whole day?
No, no.
No.
We've got about probably 50 minutes left. So.
Well, I've been passionate about working with students with disabilities in inclusive settings and students without identified disabilities. And that passion brought me to the United States and study more. And my whole passion goes to including individuals with disabilities and their peers without identified disabilities in the classroom that respect equity, inclusion, and culturally responsible teaching. And I'm very, very passionate about working with the teachers, pre-service teachers, like Kurt mentioned, teaching pre-service teachers how to become teachers. So thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. And all three of you have been recommended by our interim dean, who said, these are the people that I need to interview. These are the people that would best represent multiple pathways to teaching in a time of high need. So Jamal, we're going to start with you because you're like on my line. That's what I'm doing, and I'll switch over later. But we're going to start with you. Sure. And what are we doing at that? What are they doing in the provost's office?
So,
what are you doing?
It's been such an awesome experience signing on to CCSU, because for I don't know, the first 20 years or so of my career, I was always in public school, and in varying degrees, from teaching at the elementary level through the high school level. And so for me to be able to sort of see the trends, the ups and downs of public school education, and understanding as an administrator what families need and how they're navigating their needs and their aspirations for their children while trying to balance home and family. And I've always just made myself available to be not just a sounding board, but a support system. And now to be able to carry those experiences to higher ed and be sort of like the nexus for pre-K through 12 and higher ed, to be able to talk both languages and try to forge a relationship where it then becomes symbiotic. I'm excited. And when I was in public education, I really wanted to inspire young people to be teachers. And so when I was in West Hartford, I created a club called Future Educators of Diversity, where we targeted minority educators, future minority educators, and brought them on CCSU's campus, wove them into CCSU's commitment to minority recruitment and recruitment for teachers as a whole, where we actually forged a partnership back in 2016. So then fast forward a few years later, here I am from the higher ed side, now being able to reach back and connect from this end and seeing sort of the work that we started all those years ago come full circle. That's just one of the things that we're doing in the provost's office. Like, if you had another hour, I could tell you more, but we're going to stay focused, and we are really targeting students to really understand what it means to be a teacher, the passion that we have for being educators and lifelong learners. We want to pass that on to students, and we want them to sort of see themselves see us in them. And so it's important for us to really present opportunities for kids to explore all aspects of teaching. And really, it's something that will not only, help them professionally, but it feeds the soul too. So we're really committed to that at CCSU, and I'm just happy to be able to be the go-between for both.
The go-between for both. And we'll come later on, we'll come back to you, because there's research that says that Black students will achieve more in higher ed if they have one Black teacher. But that research also indicates that all students would do better and achieve more in higher ed. So I'm interested in this piece because Jamal, and we'll come back to it later because we'll move to Kurt, but I had more teachers of color in the 70s than I'm seeing in schools now. So I'm not certain. We'll talk about that. We'll come back to that.
Absolutely.
So I hope you enlighten us later on and give us a conversation on that. We do need everyone to become teachers, but
for sure.
All right. Kurt, Dr. Love, what is going on? What are you doing that's developing? Because there is a real crisis out there. So
yeah, there is. And for all your amazing listeners out there, not to get too much in the weeds, but I gotta say, I always appreciate a really, really intelligent radio show, right? I think this is an amazing place to be, to have these kind of conversations in real time. So really happy to be here to talk about this. But yeah, not to get too much in the weeds, but 20 years ago, we had No Child Left Behind, right? And we had a downturn in public education. We had federal policies and all that. Story short, that was just bringing the profession down. And we knew that. Jesse and I talked about this day in, day out, year after year, right? And I think we're still living in some of that pain because we're trying to transition away from that, right? Public education is transitioning away from that, which is good. But in the interim, what it did, that plus COVID, is it made for the profession to be just increasingly difficult. Why do people come to teaching is really the core question here. And then why do they leave, right? Why do people come to teaching? We joke about it all the time. It's not for the money. It's not for the money. And that's sad, right? Because money should be a compensation here for the job. There aren't many more, difficult jobs out there. There are difficult jobs out there. I'm not going to say it right, but this is a difficult job. So at its core, teaching needs to be a profession that people feel good about. I think we all know that, right? And that was depleted, right, over the years. And I think we're seeing the implications, ramifications of that right now. People are leaving, right? The numbers are just astounding. We've never had this many job openings during a school year. We've never had people leaving like they are during a school year. That's not common, right? And there's reasons for that sometimes I think we're hesitant to really acknowledge and admit to, right? But that turning is what we're talking about here today, right? What's the turning look like? One of it is, how do we make sure that we have as sort of open lanes as possible for people to come into profession, right? Is get rid of barriers. So, we're all three of us, including yourself, right, Jesse, right? So all four of us are just part of a larger group of people who are doing that kind of work. But the other side of it that I always feel is so important is, if I'm going to be in a classroom, if I make it to the classroom, I want to stay there, right? I came there because I was passionate about helping young people become the best versions of themselves. I was passionate about seeing positive increase in a community, right? Thriving. I want to see not just the reward for myself and seeing the positive, but I really do genuinely want to see people just growing into the amazing selves that they are. And so much of that is, I think, where we got stymied because of other focuses. And right now, I think we're able to really have this conversation again, right? And as we go around the state talking with people over the last few years, we've heard that people, ed leaders just going, I know, this is not good. I know this is not good, right? And as things are happening, as things are sort of falling apart in front of us, going, what do we do? What do we do? And it's not just enough to say, hey, come work for teaching. That's not going to do it. It's really about making this climate of teaching better than we've ever seen it before. I think that's how we rebuild, and it's going to take a number of years to do so. But hey, we're at CCSU, the oldest public higher ed institution in the state, 175 years old or young, depending on how you look at it. We've been about equity and teaching to the every person for 175 years from day one, right? We live in a very blessed state, Connecticut, that has so many higher ed and a very educated population. These are all good things. But we know that there's been some turmoil, right? There's been some trouble. But now it's, I think, getting back to the roots of teaching, which is about the human aspect of teaching.
All right, the human aspect of teaching. All right, we've got it. We'll put it there. I like this idea. We got to get passionate, and we are. And the people in my classes, my undergraduates, are very passionate about this, and my graduates are very passionate. So we've got that concept. And my friend, and I do this in my class. A friend of mine, the provost at Western Michigan State University, Julian Vasquez-Heelick, who always is a prolific writer and researcher on equity in higher ed. But Julian always says, if you want to recruit new teachers, what you have to first ask them to raise their hand if you're in this because you're going to make a lot of money. And he says, when nobody puts their hand up, just go on to the next question. Are you in this because you think this job is easy? And no one raised their hand. Then he says, now let's ask them why they're in this job. And I think I'm hearing that I heard that from Jamal. I'm hearing that from you, Kurt. And I'm sure I'm going to hear that from Seiko right now. So come on, tell us what's going on in special ed. This is one of the most crucial areas in our state. Bridgeport was cited as having half the amount of special education teachers that the state says they need.
Yeah. So Kurt and Jamal mentioned in the previous conversation that Kurt also mentioned that it's not for money is kind of like disappearing, that human heart part of the education. I feel like it's like shrinking and then like get little bit of not little bit, huge amount kind of like lost in the mix. And I feel that the professions that teachers need to be able to support it, need to be supported to feel joy in teaching. And then because of the climates and all the current climates, and then so many factors contributing this, that human aspect of teaching and learning are very much hurt right now. So I feel that the mental and psychological wellness of both teachers and students are important. And also that we talk about the equity and inclusion for students, but also we need to think about the equity and inclusion for teachers, and with appreciation for joy of teaching and learning. So when I was a teacher, I had a desk drawer full of student letters, and then when I had tough days, I would open it, and it made me feel so much better. And not only those items that made me feel better, but like the things that we share the joy in teaching and learning, those memories made me happy and then boosted my energy to move forward. So more of those joy in teaching and learning that teachers can experience, and then like we can equip teachers to create those moments. I think it's very important as we prepare teachers for the classroom.
So joy,
Mhm.
isn't that interesting? Because that's when I think about that. Some 20 years ago, when I came to Central, my wife worked in oncology, and that's cancer. And I used to come home every day with some great stories about some kid that did this, some teacher that did this. It was always good and always excited. And then one day she just came home and said, I want to tell those stories. And then she became a teacher that spent 25 years in the city of Hartford teaching. So that component, I want to bring back, and I think there's always the the elephant in the room. I mentioned that Hartford is struggling keeping its teachers. I imagine every priority school district in the state is. But I also am aware that I am in the state of Connecticut, whose Supreme Court in 2018 said that the state is not responsible for giving every child a high quality and equal education. And that is part of my struggle, is dealing with that. And it's been part of civil rights. I'm always involved in this struggle, but this is important because when keeping teachers there, you had mentioned, Seiko, about having good mental health for teachers and students and the joy. And while I said, we don't join for the money, we don't join for the easy job, I do know many, many teachers who have left the classroom because they really can't afford things. They can't afford to buy homes. They can't afford to buy decent cars. They can't afford to go on vacation. And this is so it helps. That's what I'm saying. So it's no surprise to me where teachers are leaving and flocking away in big numbers. It happens to be in our most diverse school districts that are severely underfunded. So we've got that piece. So let's go to Jamal. And, I'm hoping you're going to bring some joy to this too, because I think I just depressed everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
We had alluded earlier in the conversation about teacher retention, and especially with regards to minority teacher retention and keeping teachers in the profession as a whole. And this is something that I've thought about quite often since becoming an administrator, one who was charged with going out and trying to hire minority teachers. And it was very difficult, especially having those quality teachers of color who have verbally committed and then out of nowhere just decommit and then even just say, I'm done. I don't even want to start out on this pathway in teaching. And I think we all understand that good teachers are empathetic. Good teachers take the time to understand each and every student because they are aware that when they understand the story of every individual student, then they're able to connect with them and really pull the best out of them because there's a trust that's built. When I understand you and I understand your path, then I'm empathetic to some of the challenges that you may have along the way. And that is something that all good teachers carry with them. And that human element has to be supported, because when you're giving so much of yourself so often, every day, in ways that you don't even necessarily know until you go home and then you collapse because you're just so exhausted. There's a physical exhaustion, but there's also an emotional and mental exhaustion that goes with it that needs to be replenished, that needs to be refreshed. I'm not sure whether our public schools understand the importance of the refreshing and providing opportunities and supports for teachers. And then if you're talking about teachers of color, you add on to that the complications and the challenges that come with being a teacher of color. Now you have to build in those supports to support the teachers of color as well. And it has to be intentional, and it has to be thoughtful, and it has to be caring in nature. And that doesn't happen. Many districts say that they have these types of quality supports in place, but they're really not robust and they're really superficial in nature. And that's when you build people up to think that they've got a support system, and then when they look to tap into that and find that it's fluff and frivolous, now they're like, I don't trust you. I don't trust this profession. It's too hard on me for what I'm getting compensated monetarily for you not to support me emotionally and help me through this, because I'm all in. And for the teachers that I've worked with and hired, they were all in. And so it always hurt me as an administrator, assistant principal, when they came to me and said, I don't have it. I'm done. And the reason why they were done is because they didn't feel like they had all of the supports in place to help them navigate the changing face of education.
So and this is the stuff that I think, while we are Central and all the universities of the state are doing as much as they can to rethink how to attract new teachers, and we'll talk about that over there. We've got regs that will be changing this July that will open more pathways to teachers, but really we're getting to the nit and gritty of what would keep teachers in the classroom here, teachers of all colors. And I hear you loud and clear, Jamal. I hear all of you loud and clear. If we're going to keep these teachers,
I mean, Jesse, I think. No, I'm sorry for cutting you off. This thought just hit me. I'm sorry.
You are the stars, not me.
You know,
I'm the moderator.
My thought is, everybody wants to feel like they belong. Everybody wants to feel valued. Everybody. It doesn't matter what your race, creed, or color is. Everybody wants to feel like they're supported in a challenging time. Doesn't matter what grade level, whether you are primary, middle, upper, higher, it doesn't matter. And so in order for us to be successful at recruiting and retaining quality educators, we've got to provide opportunity, or we've got to provide supports where they feel a sense of belonging, welcoming, and support.
Right. So to be transformative, we're going to have to make some big changes. So, yes. Kurt, what's this? What is it? Concurrent enrollment, or what is that? What's that?
So I will answer that. I'm going to write that down so I really want to piggyback on what Jamal, the genius, said, because I think he's so on point. It's so many things here, right? The superficial in nature thing really struck me. Because I felt that way for years too, right? I think too much of education for people coming in we felt that we have to self-sacrifice constantly. Right? And people from the outside looking in, oh, it's a difficult job, but you get summers off, right? So like, cry a river, right? And I get that I get that. So for folks who aren't teachers who are listening, I get that, right? But every single day is hard. It's hard, right? You go to school every day, no matter how good the day is, it's still hard. You can have all of your classes go in an amazing direction every single day, and you still go home wiped, right? Like, it's just that kind of job. So that's what we mean when we say that it's difficult. It's emotionally toll. There's a toll on it. So anyway, conditioning ourselves to be able to do that. But I never liked the self-sacrificing narrative that comes with teaching, ever. I think that's so highly unfair, not just to teachers, but to the students and families connected, right? You shouldn't be asking somebody who's teaching your kids to be in a self-sacrificing mode and survival mode for their entire existence of a career, right? And it doesn't change when you become an administrator. Jamal can speak to that, right? The self-sacrificing goes up, right? The salary might go up too, but not enough for what the work is, right? We all know that. So the profession itself is sort of built on this acceptance that we're all just going to keep self-sacrificing to do this job. And I think that's what a lot of people have heard, especially recently, right? Either they're saying no to the profession right away because of the self-sacrificing narrative, or just, I've gotten into this profession, I've done it for a number of years, and I just can't do this anymore, right? I'm stretched too thin. It's not good for me. anymore, right? My health, my mental health, my emotional health is really stretched. That's not every single person, but that's a lot of people. And if you're looking at people who are leaving, it's probably 100% or near 100% of people who are leaving. So not just simply retired, but I mean just early exiters. Okay, so I just wanted to put that there because I think on the affirming side, what can we work on? What can we do? Well, right. Aside from salaries and all that, which has been an ongoing conversation for decades, there's also, I think, a pedagogy answer to this. In other words, how do we teach? What changes and shifts can we make, and what can we emphasize that would, I think, bring some of that feeling of depth, meaning, value, belonging, not just back to the classroom for the teacher, but for students as well. And that's something that I've been really focused on. I call it the pedagogy of thriving. I just want to get into that a little bit because we need that antidote, right? It's when we do critical views of things, we feel bad, right? We can identify the problems and say, here's the problem, and keep talking about the problem, keep talking about the problem, but we feel disempowered and disenfranchised when all we do is focus on a problem. Okay, so let me give an equivalent. Somebody goes into a doctor's office and the doctor says, "I'm sorry, the diagnosis is not good." Right? You have an illness that is going to, whatever illness. And so if the doctor was just like, "Here's the bad illness, you know, uh, take care, see you later," right? Right? As a patient, you'd be sitting there being like, "Yo, time out. Isn't there like a second part to this?" Oh, treatment, right? Yeah. Oh, no, we have treatments for that. Yeah, it's not good for now, but you'll go through it, you'll be fine. Oh, okay. Thanks for that, right? And that's the empowering side of things is that we need to get into that and we need to articulate the crap out of that, right? We need to be very strongly articulate and descriptive about what that looks like, the treatment looks like, right? And I think we've been on our heels for too long. We've been spinning our wheels trying to keep the boat afloat, sort of thing. Mixing metaphors here, but that's what I do. The aliens come down. No, okay. But we need to get to a place where we're just that much better at describing and aiming for these intended outcomes that have empowerment to them. What are we envisioning for, right? And so I move from a critical only analysis to a critical plus analysis. And by that, I mean, we can look at the problems just like any doctor would for their patient, but also look at the treatment. We have to be very treatment oriented right now, right? Treatment oriented right now isn't just looking at issues of equity, it's going beyond that. It's equity plus, right? It's looking at what does a thriving community actually look like, and then let's backwards design that so that education and other domains within our society can be the contributors to that, right? Not the detractors from that. So a community that's thriving is not something that we're good at describing, right? We're limited in the way that we describe thriving communities. And in some cases, people get sort of worked up to a point where they're like, "Well, you can't tell me what thriving is. That's super personal." And let me give you one example of where I think another profession has delved into this and somewhat successfully. And then I'll pause so others can jump in here. But where I'm going is with psychology and the psychology of happiness. Right? The psychology of happiness basically says there's 3 or 4 major sources of happiness in our life, right? So I'll take a breath. This is also like super important in our own lives. One is personal growth, right? Oh, are there implications for that in education? Yes, put a pin in that. All right. Personal growth is huge. Being able to monitor your own personal growth, gauge it, make your own decisions about it, have the freedom to do so. Huge, right? Second is high quality relationships in our life, right? And it doesn't have to be many, but they have to be there. People that you can go to when not just when times are good, but when times are a little rough. And you can really rely on them. You can be vulnerable. You can be your full self. They're still going to love you at the end of the day. You're not perfect. They're not perfect. So be it. Life marches on, but let's be together and work through that. But also let's celebrate the good stuff together, right? That's what we all thrive when we have those kind of relationships in our life. And the third one is contributions. Do we feel that we're providing meaningful, purposeful valuable contributions to at least one other person in our life, right? If not a broader community, something bigger than ourselves. When those three major categories are in play, people tend to feel pretty good about themselves, right? The last one there is like, do they have enough money to maintain the capitalist game, right? And keep afloat. And when there's just enough to pay the bills, you have some work. There's not a big increase in happiness when somebody is sort of financially stable, right? Going from being financially stable to being a millionaire, billionaire, there's not an increase of any real measurability in terms of happiness, right? So those really three plus categories, money, are things I think that we can tap into when we're talking about what we're teaching toward. What are we teaching toward, right? I can teach towards personal growth. I can have high quality relationships in the classroom, and I can teach towards contribution. No matter what the content area is, no matter what the grade level is, I can teach toward all of those things. And if we do that, and I'll say this, I've done this in multiple professional development settings around the state. When you do that, teachers are like ready to jump out of their chairs and say, "Oh my God, thank you. This is the conversation I've been wanting to have for years. And why are we not doing more of this? This is what we need, right?" So I will say to anybody and everybody who's listening in and around Connecticut and beyond, I think this is the sort of key marker of where education can and should evolve toward. I'm happy to have that conversation with anybody and everybody for as long as they need to, right? I'm not the only person thinking this way, thank God. But I think that's where we can really hone in to see some major, major changes. I'll come back to your concurrent enrollment question at some other point in time.
Gene would like that.
That was a long answer. Professors, I swear.
All right. We'll come back to that. Remember, you people have to give me some stuff when Paula said to me, these are the three, they're going to come some new innovative ways. So I got all that, and we need this stuff. Seiko, could you tell us what is your department doing to develop teachers? Like Kurt said, like Jamal was saying, who love to be in the class. And actually, I've seen at least one or two of them at every open house that sit at the table with you and usually Christina over there.
Yeah, yes. Would you like to hear about our initiative, perhaps?
Yes.
Yeah, so our newest initiative is the teacher residency program, and that is a collaboration between CCSU and then local school districts, and that support teachers to have a cohort support. And cohort, we use cohort model, so they have support within themselves, and we have also provide support as a external bigger roundup support. So in the teacher residency program, they go through this program and with a financial support, so that will that alleviates financial challenges among pre-service teachers or teachers to be. And this is really targeting special education area, and which is experiencing major teacher shortage, and more school districts are joining this initiative. So we are with the hope and hopeful that we can have special education teachers in classrooms who are very highly qualified and skilled.
Excellent.
About what they do.
We'd be remiss at open house, on graduate open house. They run to the special education table because they have a duration shortage program. It's not easy to be able to be thrown usually into the toughest of situations to teach for 2 years while you're fulfilling all the requirements required by the state. But it's when people ask me about it, they'll come over to me. Our program, you need to already be a certified teacher. And they'll say, well, we want to be a teacher. I say, would you like to earn while you grow? And I bring that DSAP situation up because having grown up in poverty, having been a kid who was homeless, having never had money in terms of that, I earned the master's degree in a program very much like that, where a professor said to me, would you like to work in high schools in Montclair? And he asked me, could you be the reading teacher? I said, I don't know anything about the reading teacher. He said, would you like the job? You're going to learn. Anyway, that stuff. So the residency program certainly does that. And DSAPs do that. And it doesn't solve all the issues that we're talking about, the issues of keeping teachers, because I look at this teacher shortage crisis if we don't address the bigger issues. It's sort of like pouring water into a bucket full of holes, but it's still.
Yes, and may I ask one thing that listeners who may not know about DSAP? DSAP is a duration shortage area permit, and there are some requirements before applying for the DSAP. But like 12 credits in related area of the graduate courses and so forth. But what this duration shortage area permit does is to allow teacher candidates to be fully responsible as special education teachers in the area of special education. And they can work in the classroom while they're taking the graduate courses to be fully certified in special education. So more teacher candidates are applying for DSAP in special education.
And that piece, why I had mentioned that, if you're a first gen, and we'll go to Jamal soon on that, if you're a first generation student, you lack a lot of resources. So any opportunity that allows you to continue your education and earn, it gives you an opportunity. And I had that opportunity as a young, graduate of our university. And it was incredible. It helped. It doesn't solve all the other issues, but when you're struggling to think about how to keep the lights on in the home, how to keep food on the table, how to do all those things, and we struggled with all those things. But that first generation student, a DSAP program helps. Jamal, if we come back to you and you share some insights, like one thing I'm excited about, because you were not on my radar until all of a sudden you were the first person to pop up and say, yeah, I went on that show over there. And then you sent me all kinds of stuff, all this. And I one of the hard things for me in the School of Education is, how do I recruit a teaching force if everyone looks like me, if I want a diverse teaching force, and that becomes, that's a genuine concern for me at our school. As not only have I seen less diverse teachers in schools than when I was in school, I'm also seeing very few diverse teachers come through our programs. So I just tell us about your thoughts on that, and what does it mean to be able to send someone to schools to talk to administrators and communities and say, guess what? I walk the walk, I talk the walk, I've done it all, and now I'm here to help you way. What is that like?
It lets me know that everything that I've ever done in my professional career has been in preparation for this moment, and being able to leverage all of those lessons that I've learned in order to really open the eyes of districts and families. The thing that, and I know Kurt will talk about his part of it, but one of the things that I am super excited about, we talk about teacher recruitment, but before we can get a kid to think about being a teacher, we have to have students believe that they can be students, that they can be successful at the higher education level. And in order to do that, it's that idea of, familiarity, bringing comfort. And we want students to become familiar with higher education, familiar with us. And the way we do that is through our dual and concurrent enrollment program. And I'm the dual enrollment administrator, and Kurt is on the concurrent enrollment side. So here's what dual enrollment is as we use the language, because if you go across the country, sometimes they flip-flop the terminology. But for our sake of argument, dual enrollment is where you have high school kids come to CCSU's campus and take 100 and 200 level courses. Sometimes they are pathway driven, sometimes they aren't. Sometimes a student is really just trying to figure out where they want to go, and being able to get a taste of higher education for many students at a no cost, super low risk, high reward type of scenario. People sign up for that, and especially when I get to talk to like CREC or Hartford Public School Systems, or we work closely with New Britain as well. And what I have gleaned in the few months that I've been here on CCSU's campus is these districts that we work with, they truly believe and trust that we walk the walk and talk the talk. So when we say that we're going to meet them where they are, and we're going to try to help increase the exposure of college to their students, and we do it. We're now even starting to reach even further back into public education and delving into how we can really involve the middle schools. So, when I was in West Hartford, the future educators, it wasn't after the first couple of years where we established the club and we really understood that kids wanted to be teachers. Then as a group, we started to reach back into the middle and elementary schools so that those little kids could see themselves in the high schoolers. And so it stands to reason that we continue to do that, where we reach further and further back, get younger and younger, and start to enticing kids and getting them to think about, I can do what my brother did. I can do what my teacher did. I can do what my parent did. And I think that being able to help kids discover their own path in a comfortable way with healthy support, and really providing opportunities, as many as we can, to get kids on campus and to just be a college student for a day. Walk around and be a Blue Devil and understand what that means, and feel like, wow, I could see myself here. And then have them talk with their buddy right next to them, eating lunch in our cafeteria, like, wow, this is awesome. And then maybe seeing a basketball, football, or a lacrosse player walking across, dancer coming in and saying, they have this here. Like there are so many benefits to forging a relationship with pre-K through 12. There are opportunities for us to give a very small school feel to the private schools, because they're used to the big schools. They're used to getting in and being a number. We want to be like almost a neighborhood feeling type of school, where we are intimately involved with the community, where families trust us, and where families are willing to send their kids to us, not only in college, but also in high school. And we got to provide those opportunities for them. And so we've been doing that tirelessly. And even Kurt and I, even this week, have gone out to quite a few school systems in the greater Hartford area, and talking about onboarding them to get them on the dual and concurrent enrollment training that CCSU is offering.
Excellent. Now we'll come to the part of the show, because we're like probably about 8 minutes left before the show finally ends. So I'm going to go to Kurt. You didn't answer my question before about this concurrent enrollment, and
You do that.
The dean is going to be angry at me if you don't tell us about this program. Jamal got to his point. Now we'll get to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Seiko's been wonderful. She's like hitting the
She's on
all
it.
the time.
She's
So
on it. I know.
take a lesson from her. Tell us about this program.
Man, one of my students, for God's sake. Get on the point, love. Let's do this. Yeah, concurrent enrollment is, it's been around for a long time. Thank you, UConn, first in the nation to do this, right? I mean, this is why Connecticut's a really special state, and a lot of times I think we live life in Connecticut, and it's good for us to have that reminder because you look around the country and there's so many awesome things around the country, right? But we're awesome. We're small, and we're awesome, and concurrent enrollment is awesome. Um, UConn started this 70 years ago, 70, right? I mean, that's no joke. And what we're talking about here is the ability for high school teachers to teach college credit classes in their high school classes, right? And sort of with the blessing of a university. That's all we're really talking about, right? So on Jamal's side, it would be just like I said, students coming to the campus, taking the actual courses here, and having some of their experience and education be here. But that's not always the case, right? There's distance issues, transportation, other logistics. I will say this much. Look, a bargain's a bargain. We're free, right? We are very much saying we don't want a dime from families, no matter where you're coming from. If you want to try these classes, we want you to be there, and we will support you to get there, right? The studies are clear. For anybody who's sort of on the fence about going to college or university after high school, if they've taken one or two college credit classes, just one or two, they're about 20% more likely to say, I can do this. The biggest hurdle, of course, is financial, right? But the second biggest hurdle oftentimes is just the view of oneself and building that view of, I can do this, right? I can do this. So that's what concurrent enrollment or early college experience, depending on who you're talking to, that's really what it's built for, is to build up that confidence to say, no, you really can do this, right? And the risk is not great because even if you're having a hard time, we're not here to get you a bad grade on your transcript, right? We can say, hey, nice try. This might not have been the right moment for you while you were doing this in high school. No biggie. Try again when you come to college, right? But on the plus side, students are saying to me directly, right? I just had this conversation yesterday with students in Weathersfield High School where they were saying, yeah, I've been planning on going to college my whole life, but this really helped me feel a lot better about that, right? My anxieties are down. I feel good about myself. I feel like I can do this. Wow, anxieties are down. Well, where are we, right? I thought every anxiety had to be up nowadays. So that's what this is really about. And I'm so happy to be, that person for CCSU, helping to build that out even more in the state than what's been done already. And always happy to work with teachers. I love going into the classrooms and working with teachers to even co-teach classes, just to say, hey, look, yeah, real life professor, and I tell jokes. This is what I do, right? You don't have to worry. You can do this.
You can do it. You can do it. You can tell jokes.
Exactly.
So if we can get students to campus, make them feel like this is a community that they can belong in, if we can take that campus to high school classrooms, even let high school teachers teach those college classes, and if students, if I heard you right, Kurt, you said, if you just take one or two college classes, you've increased your chances of earning a degree by 20%. So
Of just going, yeah.
So
it changes that mindset, right? Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Now, Seiko, you've answered all the good questions about the programs, like out there. Harry's given us great notes too over there to do that. But why be a special education teacher? What is that? Because doesn't that mean I'm going to work with all the trouble kids? I'm going to work with behavioral kids. Does that mean I just want to work with the smart kids? Go ahead, tell us about that. Why special education?
Well, I believe that all students needs to be they are learners everybody's learners, and we all have differences and learner variability, even among adults. And students may be misunderstood because of some challenges that they may face, but I believe in highlighting their strength and gain confidence and access to learning, make progress, and everybody makes progress in different speed, and that's okay. Everybody learns indifferently. So in special ed, I believe that the teachers um, uh, encourage students to realize that their strengths and ways to overcome their challenges, and that that connects to their life after graduating from high school. So it's a very, very, very important part of education.
So it's definitely a unique, powerful passion. Many people may have a desire to teach, but my special education teachers have a desire to make a tremendous difference. We're not talking about our early childhood program today, but it's clear people should understand that one special education teacher, one teacher of color, one teacher who's passionate makes a difference. And our early childhood program, they come to our literacy center and hang out, and I'm always telling them, there is no teacher in the business that is more significant in you in longitudinal studies than early childhood teachers. So that's one. I'm just throwing a special. Central has that for you. We're down to our last 30 seconds. I think Harry's going to be coming down. There'll be music coming on. Not 30 seconds ago, but I mean, let's like a message. Go ahead, Jamal.
My message is that teaching is a humanitarian vocation. We need to bring the humanity back to teaching. And the way you do that is you partner with families, you partner with others within your profession, and you figure out how to become a more compassionate unit so that we can move together in order to help all of our students become better versions of themselves.
Perfect. Go ahead, Kurt. You hear the music coming, You know they're shutting us off.
I just say let's keep focused on what it means to teach toward thriving, right? I think that's huge. It'll bring in more teachers. It'll make our kids and our communities better.
Perfect. Seiko.
A sense of belonging, like Kurt and Jamal were discussing, sense of belonging for all, including students, teachers, and all at school.
Perfect. And let me tell you, from the man who retires at the end of this year at the age of 70, that 45 years of this job has been the best choice that I could ever make. I tell the best stories at the dinner table. And it's just been an incredible journey. And I can't think of anything more profound than to be a teacher, because teachers make the difference. Love you, Connecticut. Thank you, Tom Ficklin.
Thank you.
Thank you to my guests.
Quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home